Not ready? Too bad. Head back, face forward, and hold on like you mean it.
Hello and welcome to ReviewTyme's theme Parkcast. This is a weekly show where we discuss all the ins and outs of attractions and parks from around the world. My name is Luke and I will be your host today as we explore one of the most underrated attractions in the world. An exciting journey across the sea where you'll meet monkeys, birds, and even a virtuoso ogre on Sindbad's Storybook Voyage. It's not safe to go on this voyage alone though, so please welcome my co-host, a guy who's not Sindbad, but instead Sindgood. It's my Review Time co-host, Dominic Lacey.
It was better than last week, that introduction, I think.
So that was sent in by a fan. Justin, one of our fans sent that in on Twitter. So I don't know what that says about you, because you came up with last week's. So we need to turn to third parties, apparently, is what you're saying to write these. We've already lost the plot 40 episodes in.
We need to outsource our introduction writing team.
Do you reckon there's Fiverr just to write pun-based intros to a podcast? How much do you reckon someone would charge for a one-liner every week?
On Fiverr, I guarantee that if you pay someone money, they'll do it.
Oh, they'll do it. Someone will do it. And it probably would be better than what we've come up with. But anyway, welcome back. This is season 2 of ReviewTyme's theme Parkcast. We are back. If you are listening, congratulations. This is always been the way to absorb the podcast. But there is a brand new way. If the one thing you thought was missing from the podcast was our beautiful faces, well, guess what? There's an answer for that. Brand new channel on YouTube. It's called ReviewTyme's Luke and Dom. We're putting up video versions of ReviewTyme's theme Parkcast. Exactly the same thing you're listening to, but you get to hear us talking in the same way. And there's even a fun game you can play where you can see just how long the current Sydney lockdown goes by how long my hair gets between episodes. So little fun game. Make sure to check it out. ReviewTyme's Luke and Dom. It's on YouTube, but the episodes, there's not going to be anything you miss out by not listening to it, but it's just another way to enjoy the show if you prefer that sort of video podcast, which I know a lot of people do.
Yeah, we found that a lot of people, especially that we know, wanted something that they could just, chuck on a TV, something like that they can just sort of, everyone has Google Chromecasty things now. They all have the little boxes that go in your house. They're really like $100 nowadays. So it's like little Google boxes with screens. I sound like an 80-year-old at the moment talking about technology. The little Google box.
You're either an 80-year-old or you work for Google, and I'm not sure which it is. Just make sure to tune into your favorite podcast on your little $80 Google box.
Why not both, Luke?
You can be 80 and work for Google. True. That 80-year-old working for Google is probably just like, they're talking to me. I'm going to buy one of those Google boxes, but we're not saying the real name. We can't. If Google wants us to say the actual name of their product other than Google Box, they better pay us the big Google bucks. That's all I have to say on the matter. Oh, I was just going to say, while we're doing plugs, also make sure to check out Amusement Trading Co., our store. There's a new exciting launch of products next week on the 30th of July, which is about a week from this episode. But there's plenty of exciting stuff up there at the moment, including a very special hoodie, which nobody's found yet, nobody's purchased. But if you know where to find it, there's a very special hoodie, which is close to all of our hearts. If you find it, you'll know what we're talking about. I am sure of it.
It's on the secret menu. You got to go track it down. It may be in collections.
Yeah, and I don't know where it is. Who knows? Maybe you'll find it. Let us know if you do. But we're talking today about something from Tokyo DisneySea. Is this the first time we've talked about a Tokyo DisneySea ride?
I believe so. I was just about to say, no, we've talked about the park, but I think we've talked about talking about the park.
Yeah.
A lot.
I think we've talked
we keep
about,
on teasing it.
Yeah. So we have talked about Tower of Terror, but we talked about the Twilight Zone version.
Yeah.
And we haven't talked about this park, the greatest Disney theme park in the world. And we're starting with a very random attraction, I guess, in the park. But I actually really like Sinbad's Storybook Voyage. which I only learned the other day on our live podcast when I was telling you, like, I learned just before that it's not Sinbad Storybook Voyage, it's Sindbad. Sindbad, which is something new to me. And then I looked it up. The Sinbad stunt show at Universal also is Sindbad. So it's
Sindbad.
I've always thought of it as Sinbad.
Yeah.
Like Sanbad.
I don't remember the D. Even looking at it, it still looks wrong.
Yeah, it looks like it's misspelled. Have we been Mandela affected ourselves?
Yeah, like
here?
with the Berenstein Bears and the Berenstein Bears.
The Berenstein Bears.
We've gone into an alternate universe in which Sindbad is the new Sinbad, and we've just gotten a really boring alternate universe.
Yeah. We didn't get pruned. This is what we have to live with, one letter change. Ooh, what an exciting alternate reality.
Loki reference, sneaking that in there.
That's a low-key Loki reference right there. Thanks, guys. I'm here all week. But we are talking first ever attraction at Tokyo DisneySea. It is an opening day attraction. Kind of. So it's a boat-based dark ride which opened with the park, but it opened being really scary.
Yeah, so it was nothing like what it is now. Like if you were to look up Sinbad's journey, if you haven't been on it, and I would say that this is probably getting into one of our niche topics. Like I don't think that you could get any more niche than a foreign country amusement that's not even in our language. So we're going to do our best to describe.
There's 4 words in our language. There's 4 words that are in our language in the song.
That's true. And the sign is in English as well. So we have that going for us. But I would say that this is probably one of those ones that if we look at it and it's like, 200 downloads, I see.
Yeah, I think we've done some niche stuff in the past. So it seemed to do well.
I think it'll be good.
I love this attraction.
Trust Sinbad.
I trust us. I trust Sinbad and I trust us. The reason I love this attraction is, number 1, it's really long. For number 2, it's in the AC. Number 3, the wait is always like nothing for some reason. And number 4, which is the most important, it is actually a good ride.
Yeah.
It's not just because the wait's short. It's not just because of that. It's kind of, so it's in the Arabian coast area of Tokyo DisneySea, which is, where the Aladdin themed show is, the Jasmine kind of spinner, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
It is themed to this, Arabian coast.
Nondescript Middle East is pretty much what it is.
And it's kind of the main attraction of that land of the park.
Yeah, true.
Which is weird to say because the only other things are, the spinner, a double-decker carousel, which is technically 2 carousels, I learnt. It looks like it's a double-story carousel, but it's actually 2 separate rides just stacked on top of each other.
Huh. But why would you go on the lower level one?
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, like, unless you can't go upstairs. There are people who can't go upstairs, but, like, if you had the choice.
Yeah. Was it with you or with Bobby that I got annoyed at a kid because he stole my blue genie and I had to ride a dumb purple genie?
I think that was with your partner. I can't remember that happening, but I remember you telling me about it.
Yeah, so it was late at night too. Me and her were there. There was like no wait for it's called like the Caravan Carousel, Aladdin's Magical Caravan Carousel, something like that. And you just ride on genies, essentially. There's a number of genies that you can ride, but there's some genies that are the blue, like Genie Blue, and then there's like a purple genie, maybe like a pink genie, all these different colors. And I was like, I'm going to ride the blue genie. I powered over. I'd waited 2 minutes. I was going to get the genie I wanted. And a kid just ran up and took it. It became that thing where it's like, damn, I can't be upset at a kid for wanting to ride a carousel, but at the same time, I wanted to ride the blue genie.
Well, if
so I had
you
to
had
ride a
dibs,
purple genie.
If you called dibs,
Just
then you
push
have
the kid off.
legal permission to pick up that child and move them off your blue genie. It says in the Constitution of Japan. Don't look it up. It's just true.
Just blue genie too. That's the only thing. And then there's also like a genie stage show, which is kind of cool. Even though it's not in English, it's like this mix of a 3D film, but with practical performers and like stunt, like kind of magic tricks that happen live action. and then the genie appears as a 3D like projection behind him, and it kind of interact with each other. I find that pretty cool as well.
It's quite hard to describe that attraction. It's another one that fits into like there's this huge courtyard at the Arabian coast, and Sinbad's not featured in it. Like to get to Sinbad, you have to go through these markets, and it's quite cool. It sort of brings the scale of DisneySea down a bit, which is what's vitally needed at certain points because it can feel very overwhelming. But it's a cool attraction. It's nothing like I've ever seen before. That use of practical effects and actors combined with, 3D. And it's a really nifty idea.
I remember at one point, the main thing that I pull from that show is there's a point where half a box walks off stage. Remember that?
Oh, yeah. It's like
Someone gets cut in half and then just the legs walk off stage, essentially. But it's a fun show. But yeah, Sinbad, I would say, is the main draw of this land. As I was saying, when it opened, it had a different name. It was like Sinbad's. Good question. I can't remember. It was like Sinbad something, but now it's known as Sindbad's Storybook Voyage. And the original version was very in line with the original kind of Fantasyland dark rides, where it's actually quite terrifying. But the difference being this is almost 10 minutes of terrifying, not the 2 minutes of terrifying, like a lot of the Fantasyland rides.
Yeah, it was abnormally aggressive. And I think it was trying to go down that route of, if you look at original DisneySea, they were really trying to cater to the adults, the young adults and teenagers. This was not meant to be a family park. This was meant to try and bring in some more money from the people who grew up with Disneyland and were now in a position in which they could go to a slightly more mature park. And it makes sense because you can walk around with alcohol and all of that pretty much anywhere throughout the theme park.
There was very few Disney characters as well when the park opened. When you look at stuff like this is it's not an original character. It's based off the Sinbad of, classic lore and, these huge stories of Sinbad being this iconic historical fiction character, essentially.
Can I say something?
Based off a Disney ride.
Edgy?
Yeah.
Oh, not many characters. Good. There's
when it opened, when this park opened, there was no major attractions that come to my mind based off Disney characters.
Probably only the Arabian coast. Like, I think that area.
Yeah, the genie, but that's a show. And Big Band Beat, same. It's a show that does have Disney characters in it. But as for the attractions, just doing a quick walk around the park, I'm probably wrong. I'm sure there'd be at least one, but I can't think of one.
No, it's
which is crazy.
Good.
Yeah. And this is often regarded as the best Disney theme park in the world. But hey, I'm sure there's no connection there, right, Disney? This is a company that, from what I've heard, is canceling Happily Ever after 3 years because it uses too many old IPs instead of new ones.
Yep, I have heard that. Where pretty much Bob Chapek was like, nope, it doesn't embrace what is now modern Disney. Yeah. I'm like, what is modern Disney?
I bet you the new show will have Star Wars, Marvel, Frozen, Coco. What else do you reckon it will have?
This, when I think of the Magic Kingdom, you know what I think of? Marvel. You know what I think of Star Wars? Do you want to know something? That's a lie, Luke. I don't think of those things.
Because if you look at the new show at Shanghai, it has a Marvel section and it has a Star Wars section.
Yeah, true.
And that just debuted for the 5th anniversary like a month or so ago. And it has a lot. And watching the show, which doesn't mean that I agree that it should be in the show, in the Magic Kingdom style park, but it's pretty much the coolest section. Those two sections are the coolest section of the show. But that resort has one park. This resort has 4. Why does the Star Wars need to be at the Magic Kingdom and Marvel? Which I guess we're just guessing that this is going to be the case, but it wouldn't surprise me.
The problem for me is this going to become another sort of like Frozen problem? Because, you remember when Frozen first came out and it was just like, Disney, look, I get that you really like this product. Just please stop trying to shove it down my throat.
But it almost, like the thing with Frozen was Disney was on the back foot when it came out. And they didn't expect it to explode like it did. But that meant they were playing catch up and they went overboard playing catch up. So remember, I was there in 2015 and that year was when everything had Frozen. So that was the same year that Disneyland was celebrating its 60th anniversary and all 3 of its new nighttime spectaculars had a Frozen section. And they were pretty much the exact same section. It was just Let It Go. And you could tell that it was shoehorned in because it completely didn't follow the flow. So, for example, that California Adventure had, the World of Color Celebrate. And all of the others were, these nice blending of different songs and different films together. And the animation was, unique to the show. But the Frozen part was copy and paste animation and song directly from the film.
Yeah.
Just projected on the water screens.
It would have been an executive decision that was like, get Frozen in there.
Do it.
We have to have it in there. But completely irrelevant to what we're talking about. It's
the thing of Disney like IP, but this park is becoming more IP. If you look at the new expansion, guess who's there? Our good friends Anna and Elsa, which is going to enter from right next to Sindbad Storybook Voyage, ladies and gentlemen.
You brought it back. Excellent. Chef kiss.
Which, if you haven't seen the concept for this new land at Tokyo DisneySea, the hotel, which is going to be at the very back of the land, is really tall. The top part of the hotel is actually themed in such a way it'll blend into both Fantasy Springs and Arabian Coast.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Yeah.
So similar to Tower of Terror Epcot, where it's like the front of it is designed to look like Hollywood. The back of it's designed to look like Morocco from Epcot.
Which is so cool. Especially now when they just be like, blue box. Yeah, that's the way to blend something in at
They
Epcot.
will just make the back of the Tower of Terror, we'll just paint it blue. There we go, boys. Job
oh, no,
well
that
done.
would be the current way. Don't give them more ideas.
No.
So this ride opens. There's the original version. We'll go through the kind of modern version, then we'll just touch on some of the changes. But the original version had like screaming monkeys, which I sent you a picture of before.
Yes.
Are terrifying.
They're
like
awful.
got this screeching face and they're like literally screaming at guests. There's this giant ogre which is picking up characters kind of menacingly. There's a really evil kind of whale which is larger than the size of your boat. So I think there is like a fear of big things in small rooms. This ride is the epitome of that. If you were scared of that, big things in small rooms, you would be petrified of this ride.
There's also a fear that I've heard of, which is a fear of just big empty spaces.
Yeah.
I had a friend through at school who had that. And they said that so his dad worked in the local mines and they had these huge warehouses where they would store equipment. And every now and then they would empty them out so that they can be cleaned and all of that. And he would go in there and just freak out because it was just how can this space be so big? It's just incomprehensible.
So interesting. Huh. You'd hate theme parks before they put in theming then because pretty much every ride starts as a big empty box. But yeah, from the start, this attraction's kind of people are going, But one thing we didn't talk about, the reason that this ride exists, we've talked about it before on a couple of times here and there. This park exists because Tokyo wanted to build 2 Disneylands at one point.
Yeah, pretty much.
So they went to Disney. So Tokyo Disneyland's incredibly popular in the 80s and 90s after it opens. It turns a profit. It's still to this day the most profitable theme park per guest who goes there. And Oriental Land Company, who owns the Tokyo Disney Resort, goes to Disney and they're like, Disney, people love Tokyo Disneyland. We want to build a second Tokyo Disneyland. And Imagineering and Disney are like, oh, cool. So yeah, we'll create you a second theme park. What do you want it to be about? Hollywood, like studios or maybe something like Epcot? And they go, no, we want a second Tokyo Disneyland. They literally wanted to build a carbon copy of Disneyland next door to Disneyland.
And they'd be like, that would solve our problem. You would just have two of the exact same thing, and then everyone would be able to have a wonderful day. It would basically be double dipping. And but could you, like, there are some problems that begin to develop within that idea. So that's when they started going through, and they're like, okay, look, Imagineering were like, Let's have a compromise. You know how you've got the castle. And they're like, yes, we have the castle. We would like another one of those.
Castle. Yeah.
And they're like, how about a big mountain? So it's pretty much the same thing. It's castle,
same location,
big,
middle,
middle of the park. Oh, I like that. No, okay. Now, you know that small world attraction that you've got at the back of the park.
We like that. Guests like that.
Well, what if we had a similar boat ride? There was a slow-moving boat ride. There were no thrill elements, and that took you through very similar. It had little animatronics, took you around the world. You went on an adventure, and they're like, ooh. And that's pretty much how this park went. I can't remember all of the parallels, but it's like if you look at it.
Yeah, it was sort of like
if you pick
the
it
one
apart.
you were saying, Small World is Sinbad. And, you know, I think Journey to the Center of the Earth was like Space Mountain or something like that. Like, it was just becomes this, and then it grew to become its own thing, which is always crazy to me, which if you compare this ride to something, the closest thing is probably a storyline-driven version of Small World.
Yeah.
She was saying it has very similar size animatronics. It's a boat ride. It has a monstrous capacity, which is why it's always such a short queue. And it just, from that day, people liked it, but the families generally thought it was too scary.
Yeah,
so
which
they
is
went
fair.
to back to the drawing board essentially, and it became how do we redo this ride to be not scary whilst also not being too expensive? Because while Tokyo spends a lot of money on rides and a lot, like huge amounts of money compared to other Disney parks, you've just opened your brand new, like, multi-billion-dollar theme park.
Yeah.
You don't want to have to pay another $1 billion to fix one ride, which is, so they essentially go back to the drawing board, but with as much, trying to keep as much as they can possibly. And I feel the biggest thing that they did that led to the success of this new version is they approached Alan Menken.
Yeah, to make the song.
Yeah. So if you don't know Alan Menken, he is the composer for movies such as, you know, Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin.
Yeah.
He creates an original song for this ride. This original song partnered with Chandu, who is a really cute little tiger.
Oh, yeah.
Those two things, I feel, are what drove the reinvention of this ride. If you look at those two things, they're kind of the two things that carry you through. Chandu's this little cute tiger. Japanese love their little cute tigers. You can buy a plush of him. You can
eat his tail
to him. Yeah, and people love it.
And the thing I think we should reiterate is like, it wasn't too scary in testing. It opened as too scary. Like, it was in the park for like a year or two. There was
a couple of years, I think. Yeah, and then it changes. Yeah, to Sindbad over time to Sinbad's Storybook Voyage is the second version, which is the one that's still there to this day. So it has lasted a lot longer. The second version, which is fair enough. And it's good to see that Disney went, this isn't working. How do we redo it? And successfully so, unlike pretty much the other time this exact same thing happened with Extraterrestrial.
Yeah.
Because they literally did the same thing. They replaced like a scary ride, but they added in a cute character.
True. Yeah.
They add, to try to make it more appealing for the kids.
The thing that I will specify as well is that even though the scenes are pretty much identical, like they don't change the sets, they change the perspective of the protagonist. So Sinbad in the original story is, he's kind of a thief. He's going around, he's stealing stuff. He's getting
Yeah.
into lots of trouble, and he's just generally causing chaos. And then in the next version, it becomes that thing where he's going on an adventure, but everything he's doing, he's the good guy now. Like
Yeah.
he's not stealing, as we'll go through with some of the scenes. There's like one scene where originally he was stealing a giant egg from a bird, and then the bird comes and attacks you because you're on the journey with Sinbad.
Yeah.
Whereas they sort of spin it where they keep the exact same animatronics, but they cover like a lot of them in this black outfit to make them sort of look like ninjas. But now they're stealing the egg and Sinbad's helping out to stop them. So they turn Sinbad from like this morally ambiguous character into a good guy.
Yeah. And it's, as you were saying, it's using so many of the same animatronics, but they might have, changed the scene. They might have added some extra props. They might have changed the lighting, I know, in a lot of scenes. The original version opens in 2001. This version opened 6 years later in 2007.
Ooh.
So it lasted a lot longer than I originally thought.
Yeah.
But let's take a step. So we've walked into the park, we've taken our right. We've kind of got lost because this is quite a fair way. This park is huge, even though it doesn't necessarily look it from above, because a lot of the walkways are quite restrictive in different ways to other Disney parks around the world. So a lot of lands, might only have one or two ways, in or out, and they might be at complete opposite corners of the land. Yeah. For example.
It's
so
also one of those problems where if you go, all right, I want to go to this land. If you think of like as the crow flies, you just have to walk, 500 meters that way. But then you actually have to walk like a kilometer because you have to do all of these wind-in paths to actually get to where you want to go. Like you have to go either through the mountain, which in itself is an effort, because I would say the park sort of consists of two rings. There's an inner ring and then an outer ring, and then there's lots of walkways between them.
And I reckon, no joke, if you walk that outer ring, it's probably a 30-minute walk.
Oh, yeah, it's huge.
Yeah.
And the inner ring is really small. So it's that thing of like, if you go along the out.
Yeah, there was a day when we were there and we did something like 40,000 steps.
Yeah.
In a day or something ridiculous. Yeah.
Well, it was that thing where you would look at the wait times and at the front of the park and it would be like, Indiana Jones is now only a 10-minute wait. And we're like, awesome, let's go to Indiana Jones. Not kidding, 20-minute walk from the front of the park.
Yeah. Longer walk than some of the waits. We got lucky. The time we went, waits weren't too crazy. But the time I went with my partner, waits were tiny. Like we went on a Saturday and the people always say, go to Tokyo Disney, avoid weekends, full stop. Like the Saturday we were there was as quiet as any of the days when me and you were there. And the weekdays were dead.
I am jealous of you because you consistently have these experiences where it's
people
like,
are scared of me, I reckon. People must not want to go with the same time as me in case they overhear me just go blah, 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 talking about theme parks and they get
do you want to know some
overwhelmed.
theme park history? No, but legit, like you'll go to these parks on like a Saturday and you'll be like, oh man, it was dead. And then I'll specifically choose a time of the year and it's like, okay, I'm going during the off-peak. I'm going when it's like the expensive off-peak. So it should draw people away. I'm going on a weekday and then I'll get there and it'll be like a 3-hour wait for Test Track and it's like damn it.
I don't know what it is about. I've just gotten really lucky and a lot of it comes like Tokyo Disneyland. We've used a lot of Tokyo TDR Explorer. There was this kind of, remember when the first time we were planning on when to go, there was this crowd calendar that was only in Japanese. So you had to like translate it, but then it still didn't quite make sense.
And it had like weird icons to represent different days. Like it wasn't, a 1 to 10 system. It was like a leaf and it was a sunshine and all that. And it was like, huh?
What? So we deciphered that. And that's why the time we were there, we kind of had a trade-off because it was incredibly sweaty.
Yeah.
We went in the middle of summer, so it was really hot and really humid, but it was really quiet. So there's your trade-off, which is probably one of the reasons we like this ride a lot. We did this quite a few times when we were there because anytime you'd walk past, the waits were 5-10 minutes max, and it was going to be, 20 minutes in the air conditioning all up. sit back, relax. You get, a good ride no matter where you're sitting. Like, I feel this is the perfect Tokyo DisneySea ride for me. Because it's the sort of thing, to me, this ride is the epitome of the extra effort that, somewhere like the Tokyo Disney Resort goes to. This kind of ride would, I feel, only ever exist at the Tokyo Disney Resort.
Yeah, it's also got that benefit of having the sort of experience of the modern Disney company behind it. Like, it is a traditional dark ride.
Yeah.
But
at
it's
the end
a
of the
new
day,
traditional dark ride.
Yeah. It's a water-based dark ride at the end of the day, using relatively... The main characters are relatively minimalistic in their animations. There's some really impressive animatronics, but it's no A10 millions or whatever the new ones are called. But as I was saying earlier, I feel the thing that carries you through this entire attraction is the Alan Menken song. I feel it's impossible to walk out of this ride without humming the exactly. And then it kind of goes the compass of your heart, because you don't like the rest. You don't speak Japanese when you walk, when you're on the ride. So the only part that sticks in your head is the compass of your heart, which is
we should rephrase that sentence. We don't speak Japanese when we're on the ride. Not you don't speak. All our audience, none of you speak Japanese.
I'm talking to you, right?
Oh, sorry.
I'm talking to you.
I thought you were just making a broad sort of judgment.
No one speaks Japanese. No one has ever ridden this ride. No one but there's an English version of this song that's performed by a full orchestra with 6 singers, which is available on YouTube, which is a great listen if you haven't heard it before. But to get to this queue, I don't even know how to describe this facade. It's almost like a kind of Middle Eastern castle. Yeah.
Can I try and describe it?
Yeah, because I can't. Clearly.
It kind of looks like a mixture between a Middle Eastern castle and a Caribbean fortress.
Yeah, it does have a bit of the pirates from Magic Kingdom look too, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Just with a slightly different color scheme.
But it's sort of it's a really dry looking brick. It's very sort of whitewashed. It's got nice green, or what I assume,
the only kind
spikes.
of color accents are like a green, but even then it's not like a really bright, vibrant green. It's like a dull, it looks like this, castle or fortress or whatever it is has been here for hundreds of years.
It's a bit boring.
Yeah. And it doesn't really give a great indication of what this ride is. The only thing that kind of tells you what it is, so they're strung above the entrance, it looks like maybe a boat, a boat sail that's been strung up, and they've just painted, Sindbad, Storybook, Voyage across it. And then below that's this giant medallion of Sinbad and then Chandu, which tells you how they're trying to get people into the ride. Just getting as much billing on this big poster, essentially, to draw you into the ride is the tiger.
Yeah. Cute baby tiger.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those facades that really, as you're walking past, it doesn't strike you as being...
I reckon some people would walk past this and not even know it's an attraction.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Because it's a huge building. Yeah. It's a monstrous building, and there's a one-door entrance to the attraction, and the exit kind of kicks you out in a weird direction, so it's not clear that people are coming off a ride from where that is either.
Yeah. Actually, in saying that, a lot of DisneySea is like that. If you think about early Storm Rider, where it was just kind of there's nothing to really drag you in and go, this is Storm Rider.
Or you know what the biggest one I would say for that is? 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
Oh, yeah, true.
Because it's got this big kind of spiral walkway that leads you down to the level of the attraction, but the spiral walkway is the entrance to the ride, but it's not clear that there's a sign above the entrance, but it just could look like a piece of theming that you could walk down and go to, where they sell the gyoza dog, for example. It
Gyoza
doesn't look that
dog.
different. Like, it doesn't look that different to the stairway that takes you down to that.
Yeah, true. Yeah, it's I would even say
It's
journey
exploratory, yeah.
as well.
Yeah, journey. It's a hole in the side of a mountain, literally. A hole. You have to go into a cave inside a volcano, and then it's just a hole in that volcano. All right, so you've somehow found the entrance to this attraction.
Yes.
You've walked in to probably one of the worst queues in the world. Like, it's essentially back and forth with like painted brick walls are like the only theming to kind of look at. I don't really remember it because I've never been stuck in it for that long.
Yeah,
Like, legitimately. Yeah.
It is kind of just. It kind of gives me a Pirates of the Caribbean vibes at the Magic Kingdom, where you're just kind of walking through, looking at the entrance of the attraction, but it doesn't really inspire anything. It's just, hey, this is the entrance. You're not going to be waiting here long. There's a boat.
And I think they knew that. Like, this thing, I think, has a capacity of like 2,500 an hour or something ridiculous like that. So they know and there's no fast pass on this attraction either.
True.
So it's pure standby. So it's just pumping through people. You pretty much don't ever stop. So it just doesn't need the best queue in the world. But you get onto your boat with, all the other guests. You usually get a row to yourself, like to your party, which is nice. They don't try to cram it in like they do at the US-based Small Worlds, I've noticed. Like, I've been in a group of 3 before, and they try to jam another 2 people next to you, and it's just like crunch.
They would do that at Hong Kong. And I think it's because Hong Kong Disneyland only has like one of these high capacity dark rides. So they would just squeeze everyone in. And so you would have a full boat, like 4 to 5 people per row. And you would hear it as like it comes off the conveyor. The back of the boat like goes, dong. So it was rough, but it was always nice to rub shoulders with other
meet
people.
Some new people. So you start, you load your boat, it goes down, and you begin your journey. You're in the village. So Sinbad's village, which is somewhere in Baghdad.
Are we doing the original or are we doing the new one?
No, this is the current. At the end, we'll quickly touch on just some differences.
Yeah.
But I haven't, there is a full video of the original out there, and it's terrifying. But this is the version that we've ridden, the current version you can ride today. So you're going through this city, and it's essentially like a farewell to Sinbad. He's about to go off on his storybook voyage, and all of the people are singing. There's some people doing like a little belly dance. There's like a belly dancing animatronic.
Oh, Disney.
Watch it, a bit raunchy. This is the adult theme park. You can tell.
PG-13.
There's a wizard, I think.
It's very vague. It's kind of
literally
just like, look, fun
see
stuff.
ya, good luck, have fun on your journey, and everyone's kind of singing the song. And then they're on their boat. They've got Chandu and Sinbad, and then you go on your journey, and this is, I think, where you see the wizards. But the wizards are giving a warning, for there is dangerous storms ahead.
Oh, no.
And that doesn't bode well. So you go through a dangerous storm until you get to these mermaids, I guess you would call them. I think in the original, they were kind of like sirens.
Yeah.
And they were like scary. Well, now they're good mermaids. They're rescuing Sinbad from the storm.
Oh,
thankfully.
Look, if they're anything like the belly dancing ladies at the start, maybe.
Oh, it's not a raunchy. Whew, not sirens. That's
So I think you can kind of get what I was getting at there.
And they kind of go, oh, thank you, Sinbad. And this kind of sets the tone for, even if something goes wrong, thankfully somebody's going to be there to save our boys, Sinbad and Chandu.
Especially
Thankfully.
Chandu, because Chandu brings in a lot of money for the Oriental
you
Land
can
Company.
Is it called a pass holder? Which looks like, so where you put your ticket, and it looks like Chandu's head. And a lot of people had those. So you got to save the money maker. You got to save a Mickey. Mickey can't die, and Chandu can't die. That's it. Everyone else, a free game.
They'll outlive you.
So the next room we actually talked about briefly earlier is there's these pirates. So these pirates, you called them ninjas, and that's the best way to describe it. They're dressed in all black. Originally, they were part of Sinbad's crew in the original version of the attraction, where now they're these bad guy pirates. But luckily, they eventually get their comeuppance. So they're attacking, kind of attacking, I guess. They're trying to steal these giant eggs.
Yeah.
Which are in a nest. And there's one of them that's like stuck in an egg, which is kind of comedic and stuff like that. But it comes to one of which I would say is the first part of the ride where you're like, oh, I guess this is better than I thought it was going to be because there's a ginormous bird above your head. And this is a huge animatronic.
And it like flies over you, and it's like holding one of the ninjas, by the. So for context, there was this guy who I think it was the same guy who's like, how do daddy long legs, like how do they survive? But he used to always in his very thick accent call ninjas ninjas. So it just slipped out there. Anyway, I do highly recommend looking up the video on how daddy long legs make a life.
Huh. Interesting. That's what I'm going to do after this pod.
Very random.
So they're attacking these birds, and Sinbad and Chandu come along and they attack. And yeah, as you were saying, there's this giant bird overhead hanging a pirate ninja, whatever you want to call them, from their thing. So the pirate gets their comeuppance. You go to the next room, which is then another room where it's like, oh, you thought this ride was cool before? Well, now it's even cooler. You're in this treasure room, which is sparkling with gold. There's gold everywhere you look. And to reward Sinbad and Chandu, they have given a giant feather because that's a reward, apparently. And the giant feather from the rock bird, they are now using to lockpick a jail cell, which has an even bigger animatronic inside of a giant ogre who's kind of singing the same song, but in a really deep voice.
It's very deep. It's and this is sort of like, this is a really interesting one, and we'll talk about it a little bit later, but this was a really cool way in which they transform these scenes to sort of be like, the pirates are in there, they're stealing all the treasure, but they've also locked away this giant, and I think it's implied like this is the giant's treasure. And so then the giant escapes. Well, I guess he gets set free, and then in the next scene they just sort of play music together.
Yeah, they just kind of jive together.
They're vibing,
yeah, like, and the ogre has this kind of giant. It's not really a guitar. It's called, the instrument starts with like a CS, I think.
I do not know my Middle Eastern instruments that well.
Well,
I studied music. I know the sitar, but that's Indian, I believe.
Yeah, well, it's kind of, just to describe it, it's kind of like a single string guitar that's played with a bow, like a violin.
I think it might actually be a
sitar?
An Asian, like a Chinese or a Japanese instrument, if I remember correctly. Quickly, carry the show and I'll find out.
Well, yeah, so you go into this room, and your reward for saving the giant is getting to see him in all of his glory, because the giant is humongous. He's probably one of the biggest animatronics I've ever seen. Like, I guess the only thing bigger that I can think of off the top of my head is the original Kong animatronic from Universal Studios Hollywood's studio tour, Kongfrontation. Other than that, I can't think of a much bigger animatronic. And it's like
and the way this used to work is, whereas he's currently holding the instrument in which I cannot find the name for. If you look up single stringed bowed instrument, there's a couple. There's one called a berimbau. There is also one called an ektara. Beyond that, I cannot find any more information. So that's maybe something that someone can write in about. But where he's like, he's pinching it. And I can actually do this and describe it at the same time, because now we have the magic of video where he's pinching the like bow to be like, that used to be him holding one of the pirates, like one of Sinbad's crew, because he was like trapped, and then it's implied that he escapes and he's like holding and like he's really angry and like throwing them around. So imagine where he used to be holding this instrument. So he's got, one hand is holding the actual instrument itself, and then he's got the bow in the other. That was just people. It was just like throwing them around.
Yeah. This part, like, this is the difference into now. Such a large animatronic is like a moment of awe and, oh, wow, that's impressive. Compared to before, with the animatronic of that big, that size being scary, that would have been terrifying.
Oh, yeah.
He's huge, like towering, like, 20-foot tall animatronic towering over you with like evil eyes, essentially.
And it's like, please simmer down.
Why don't the kids like this? I don't know. So they sing their song together. They do a nice little duet of Compass of Your Heart by Alan Menken while they play their single-stringed instrument. And they get to keep going.
Single-stringed instrument, likely from the Eastern world.
Somewhere around there. So then you sail along and you get to go to the best smelling room in the ride.
Ooh.
The monkey room.
Ooh,
which
the
smells
gym locker.
Like bananas.
Oh, okay. This is a different attraction I'm thinking of.
What? That's the worst smelling room in the ride. But yeah, I remember this ride because it smells really nice.
Smells like those banana lollies that you can buy that usually comes in like a mix.
It's that real fake banana smell, which I've heard people say. I don't know if it's true.
Oh, not this.
I don't think it is. It true?
I have never found a solid conclusion, but I know what you're going to say, where it's like, the fake banana used to be a type of banana that is now extinct. But I'm like, how? How did a banana, like if this banana was so popular that it was worldwide and like renowned for being, yes, this is the banana flavor, how did it go extinct? I assume that's what you were going to say.
Yeah. But I guess it is like grape flavoring. Tastes nothing like grapes to me.
Yeah. It's like the
maybe
artificial
it probably
flavor.
is just the candy flavor. But it is very, that fake kind of overly banana smell. And the reason it smells like that is because this is the monkey room. But thankfully now they're not screeching monkeys like they were in the original version, but happy, smiling monkeys who are playing the drums with you. Which I don't really get the purpose of this. I think the story is just kind of, here's different parts of Sinbad's exciting voyage. They like the first one kind of tied together where it was like, the feather from the previous scene they used to unlock the ogre. And then because he's unlocked, they go to the next, scene. I don't necessarily get some of the flow between these later scenes. I'm sure they're there if you, look deep enough and you follow along with the song and the story and that. I'm sure the ties are there. But I think it is more of because Sinbad is the 7 books, right? The 7 voyages of Sinbad, I think, is the the classic story. And I think this is kind of, each major scene is meant to be one of those, voyages of Sinbad.
Yeah, that's what I get the vibe of, is that we're seeing the entire journey of Sinbad.
It's like a highlights reel of Sinbad's journey.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like a clip show. But this monkey scene, I think, was meant to just basically originally be spooky monkeys. Yeah. And now it's not. So I think this was probably one of the ones where they're like, we can just make them happy. And they're
kind of
just
playing
vibing.
drums and go do 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 do. But according to the official description of this scene, Sinbad befriends the monkeys, and now everyone is at peace. He tells the monkeys he's had fun, but he's got to go. So he kind of just vibes with the monkeys. He's vibed with the ogre, and now he's vibing with the monkeys.
Sinbad,
he's just vibing.
Through the ages, just like he was sort of that, that one young teacher that you had at the school who usually worked in PE. And it's like,
hey guys, how you going?
Mr. Thomas was usually their name for some reason. I only had one, but this person just reminds me of that. Maybe it's not their name, but it could be, and it is.
It's fitting. It's their name now.
But they're kind of like that person who it's just like, yeah, man, I'm always here
guys,
for you,
it's
brother.
Me, the cool teacher.
I'm a chill teacher.
I'm only 24 years old, so I know what it's like to be a teenager. Yeah. So they get their farewell from the monkeys, and then there's a really cute part where Chandu's kind of in a pile of bananas and he's like, hello. Because every scene, we might not have pointed out, but has Chandu doing something really cute.
Oh,
so you just need to buy that Chandu merchandise at the end of the ride.
And if you don't buy the Chandu merchandise, then they will actually harm Chandu. So that's what they hold over you as you're leaving. But
that's what I was about to say. There's no gift shop.
Yeah, that's true.
At the exit to this ride. It's like in the kind of marketplace area of the Arabian coast, which is down the road. So they know you want Chandu merch so bad, you're willing to seek it. Exactly. So you go past the monkeys, and then you've got one, I would say, last big impressive animatronic scene, which is you're kind of riding on top of a whale. Sorry, not you, but Sinbad is. And he's kind of cool. He's happy. If you look at the original version, he had a really angry eye. And now he's got a happy eyebrow. Like, literally an eyebrow change moved him from an angry villainous character to a happy-go-lucky whale.
This attraction is the epitome of, I'm not sure if you ever saw it when you're in school, but it was a classic thing to do in multimedia classes and stuff like that, where it was essentially like, all right, we're going to give you this scene. The scene is nondescript. And just by using music, we will change it from a happy scene to a sad scene. And this attraction just went through and they're like, we're going to use music. We're going to make it happy. And we're just going to slightly change some of the things.
The lighting, some of the faces of the animatronics, the costumes.
I'm fairly certain when it came to the mouths of the monkeys, like they were originally really angry and then they just sort of...
like a gape.
Yeah, just sort of
They moved it to be like a smile now? Yeah, it's really interesting if you look at the two attractions side by side, because it is crazy how it didn't take that much of a change to make this into a welcoming, wholesome experience compared to the scary one. And then that's kind of the last major scene, because the next scene is almost cyclical, because the finale scene is back in the city again.
Cyclical or cyclical?
Same word, isn't it?
I don't know. It just caught me off guard.
Well, the word is cycle, like
cycle. Yeah, but the English language is a silly thing. Yeah, no,
if we're going to pick on everything, especially that we have accents, so that means everything we say is wrong to a lot of people anyway.
Welcome to the bloody review.
We could have worse accents. For anyone who complains about our accent being hard to understand, imagine if we had what I would consider the true Australian accent. Oh, g'day, mate. Hey, that's not even it. I don't know. I can't even do it. G'day, guys, and welcome to the ReviewTyme's theme Parkcast.
Basically, anywhere west of the Blue Mountains is...
Yeah, we have very soft, listening to this, you probably are like, oh, Australian, I can barely understand half of what they say. We have very soft Australian accents compared to some of them. Like, some of them are aggressively rough. To my ears, some Australian accents are harsh. So I can only imagine what it'd be like to a foreigner.
But Luke does this thing where, because he lived in the US for a while, and you only do it in one circumstance, you'll have your thick Australian accent talking to me and be like, oh, g'day, cobber, bloody shrimp on the barbie. And then you've got to order something at McDonald's or something and be like,
hello.
Oh, hi, can I please get a burger? And it's like, the hell did that come from?
So I think I've probably talked about it on the show, but when they'd look, I had to change certain words. So this would be like, they'd be like, oh, excuse me, how can I get to the haunted mansion? And I'll be like, oh, yeah, of course. To get to the haunted mansion, like I change certain words. To get to the haunted mansion, you just go down the street and then you take a left at the castle. And then once you get, you walk past the Hall of Presidents. Because no, I would literally say, yeah, so just go up towards the castle, take a left, and then once you get past the Hall of Presidents, take a right. And they'd be like, what?
What is a castle?
Castle. I've had this time where I would tell a guest, like, yep, so go up towards the castle, take a left, go across the bridge, and then you're in Liberty Square, and then go towards the water and take a right. They'd literally go, okay, thank you. And then I'd see them go to the very next cast member and ask the exact same question. So they clearly just were like, they'll be polite. They were like, okay, thanks. But must have walked away and been like, what the heck is he talking about?
One of the crazy things for me when I was living in Hong Kong, and I know we've literally, like, people are probably there like, guys, just finish the damn attraction.
What
You're
happened?
right.
This is a short episode so far. So this is how we stretch it.
No. I want to tell my story.
This is Review Time 7 Voyages before we tell you of Sindbad's.
So in Hong Kong, it basically used to be this thing where, like, because I was the only person who English was my first language, people who were from like Europe, who were ESL, and people who were from like Hong Kong and China who were ESL, I would become like the translator between them. But they would speak English, but they would be like, this word. And I'd be like, what's the context? And I'm like, oh, you mean this? And sort of like, I'd have to sit there as like a little mediator between the two people speaking ESLs.
That was always the best, your best friends at Disney, working at Disney, was knowing who speaks what language.
Oh, yeah.
And where they were around you, because it is such an international destination.
Who speaks Spanish?
And, in the time that the time I was there, I know a handful of phrases in Spanish now. I can tell you what time the fireworks are. I can tell you what time the parade is. I can tell you, where you can and can't sit. And that's about it. Once it went above that level, I knew my friends who worked with me where they were, so I could just be like, 1 second, because no matter how many blogs say it, as a Disney cast member, you can say you don't know. You just have to say the but at the end of it. And it always annoys me because you'll always see these top 20 things you don't know about working for Disney.
The way you just said that
like,
was a very specific jab at a very specific channel.
No, that wasn't a TPM. That was meant to be a BuzzFeed thing.
Oh, sorry.
That's my BuzzFeed voice. I was trying to do like a female, because you know how what was the one that used to always do the top 10?
I know the one you're thinking of, where it's like, you may have watched Marvel movies, but did you know that?
Yeah, I was trying to do that voice, and they would always be like, I can't do the voice, but like, working for Disney, you can never say you don't know.
Oh, can I try?
And it's like, yeah.
Working at Disney, did you know that they are trained to never say no?
It sounds like a mix of the woman we're thinking of and the how it's made. The pencil is made from the wood of an oak tree. Like, those two women mixed together. Is that...
Sorry for all of the people who are like, what happens in the final scene, boys? I want to know.
Two Australian boys trying to be American girls that host different TLC programs at this point. They're meant to be talking about a Japanese ride through Tokyo DisneySea about a Middle Eastern character, and they're doing American female voices at this point.
Look, if you are
it's very on brand for the show.
If you're a fan of the podcast, I'd like you to write in. What's our biggest tangent so far?
Yeah, they'd always say, so, but getting back to it, You can, as a cast member, say you don't know.
No.
You just have to say, but I'll find out.
Can I do something?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, as a cast member, Luke, did you know that you can actually say no, and you can go and get someone, if there are some tourists there who speak Japanese, much like the language they speak at Tokyo DisneySea with the attraction Sindbad's Journey.
Yes, thank you. Did I ever tell you the time where I did guest? No, this is related because guests from Tokyo were over at the park and they gave me a Tokyo Disneyland pin.
Oh, cool. That's
because
nice.
they came in and they spoke essentially very little, very basic English. And they were at the Magic Kingdom. They were so excited to be there. You could tell. And it was really cute to see that. I love that visceral excitement that people get when they walk around and see Cinderella Castle. Yeah, visceral's a good word here.
I guess it's got an interesting connotation, but anyway, so I need to stop pulling you up on your words. It's just getting mean at this
Visceral
point.
excitement is like that real intense excitement when they saw the castle. They came up and they were like, please, map kind of thing. And so I took them over to City Hall, gave them a Japanese map. And they were so grateful they gave me like an exclusive Tokyo DisneySea pin and took a picture with me. And it's still on my pin lanyard today.
I'm sorry for calling you out, Luke. I would like to provide an apology for our listeners as visceral, relating to deep inward feelings rather than to intellect. The voters' visceral fear
it's
of
almost
change.
One of us has a degree in English and the other doesn't, but you wouldn't know that I do because I don't sound like I do. Listen to that. Hear that sentence? Get murdered? That's coming from a man with a degree in English.
So what happens in the final scene?
So anyway, we're at the final scene of Sinbad. Storybook.
Anyway,
Voyage,
can I just
Sinbad.
quickly tell a story about the time I used the toilet in Japan?
Tell us about the time you're in Paris. Yeah.
Oh, okay, so when I went
Japan's too close. Tell us about Paris.
Back in 1993 when I was born.
To understand this, we need to go back. It's the cyclical nature. You end up back in the story, like this town that he started in, but now everyone's celebrating, so they're not wishing him luck. He's come back, he's returned, he's got all his bananas, he's got all his treasure, he's got all of this thing, and everyone's kind of congratulating him. There's fireworks going off, which uses a similar effect.
Cyclical.
What is happening here?
Wait.
Cyclical.
Cyclical. That's how she said it. Cyclical.
Cyclical.
A third way. Cyclical.
I forgot that this was recorded, and I thought that it
come
was
up on Tony Hawk's Pro Skater when you did a trick. Cyclical.
It's gone. We've lost it. The podcast just abandoned ship at this point.
So there's a celebration. Everyone goes, yay, you did it, Sinbad. The belly dancers are back, boys. And the song ends and the compass of your heart blares, which is going to be stuck on at your head the rest of the day. But the theme of the entire ride, which is the lyrics of the song,
did you just say it's going to be stuck on your hair?
Head. Yeah, stuck on your head. That's where you... Wow, is this the Nitpick podcast with Nit Pickerson and Luke Carroll?
It's a Friday afternoon. I'm really tired.
And then I need to tell you the literal meaning of the lyrics because it's very wholesome.
Thank you.
Compass of your heart, it says that the most important things in life, more important than material things, more important than wealth, the most important thing in life are friends and your friendships you encounter throughout your life. You know, the friends who nitpick you about saying cyclical wrong. That's the most important part of life. And thank you, Sindbad, for letting me know about that.
Do you know what's the most, the real takeaway that they have for this attraction? Buy more merchandise.
Buy Chandu. Please. He's very cute.
I forgot it was Another podcast reminded me, and this is one of those classic ones where they've specifically changed an attraction to make it more merchandisable.
Marketable.
And I just remember there's this scene in Family Guy where I think it's Peter Griffin. He befriends Michael Eisner. He's like, hey, Michael, next time you're in Florida, stop by Walt Disney World. And then he leans in really close and he's like, but bring lots of money.
Yeah. I think there's a few episodes with Eisner in there, which is such a niche.
Very
I guess
random.
it was like, merch, buy Chandu merch. We'll quickly talk about some changes between the original to the current one.
Yeah.
Originally, as you know, looking at you, you're not going to like this.
Ooh.
Sinbad originally had facial hair, and that's how we know that he was bad, apparently.
That's Walt Disney is shivering right now. The man who had a mustache,
People
who
have
banned
tattoos and
beards.
facial hair. No.
I love that irony of him banning facial hair on both employees and guests whilst rocking a mustache. It's kind of that thing where it's like,
Walt's got a sick stash.
This is a birthmark.
It's his iconic look. That sick stash. I don't think many people could pull off a stash that well. Walt could rock the stash.
The Walt stash. Well, I need to shave off my beard soon, so I'll post a picture on Twitter with my Walt stash.
Dom versus Walt. Who has a better mustache? The Sinbad now is like a clean shaven. He's kind of a younger character. The opening scene was not really a send-off. It was just, here's a marketplace sort of thing. It wasn't this big celebration. And then as we were saying, the mermaid scene has this sinister siren. They're singing this, like, essentially singing you to your grave, as, sirens do in pirate
Very cool.
lore and stuff like that. The villainous pirates were Sinbad's crew originally, where now they're just bad guys who look like ninjas. That's right. The giant in the original scene, he's not in a prison cell. He's just like looking through the window.
Yeah, he's kind of like, yo, get out of my stuff.
What you doing in there? Because it's the giant's treasure. He's looking through the window, and Sinbad's crew is essentially stealing all the treasure, which is why when you get to the next scene, the giant's like, can you not do that, please? He's picked up one of his crewmates,
Very
and Sinbad's
polite.
essentially fighting the giant to try to get his crewmate back, and then they're all having a fight. And then the monkeys, as we were saying, are terrifying. They have the screaming faces. They're all holding spears and rocks that they're like, threatening to throw at you.
Yeah.
Essentially. And then the whale, has angry eyes. People are getting blown out of the whale's spout, like thrown away, essentially. And then the finale is essentially, this can be boiled down to, you stole? Congratulations, you win. Because the very last scene just has Sinbad unpacking all his treasure.
Yeah,
that he's
isn't
won
it like,
from the giant.
Because in the original version, in the final version, it's that thing where they're sort of taking everything off the boat, and it's implied, these are the gifts that came from the people that you saved. So it's sort of like, here's, something that relates to the mermaids, and here's something that relates to the birds. Whereas in the original one, it was like, hey, here's all the stuff that you stole.
Look at the stuff I stole. Congratulations to me. And then you get off the ride, and rather than the story being like the importance of friends and friendship, and it's literally, if you're a bad guy, you win. Congratulations.
Good job.
Which is a bit of this ride was ahead of its time, looking back on the last 18 months. If you're a bad guy, you win.
If you exploit labor, you'll go to space.
You get to go to space. So Sinbad's going to be the third person to go to space. If this ride didn't get cancelled, Sinbad would be in space this week.
It's true.
So congratulations to Sinbad. But that's kind of the ride. I would say, as we said at the top of the episode, this is a really good ride, I feel. This is probably, it's not, best ride at Tokyo DisneySea or anything like that. But I would say it's an underrated gem from what is, in our opinion, the best theme park in the world.
It definitely falls into that category of when it comes to these sort of attractions where it's nothing that you're going to be like, you have to go to DisneySea and you have to ride this attraction.
Yeah.
But it's perfect as one of those just all-round good. And it's one of those things that I don't think Disney really does anymore. But I guess the closest thing would maybe be Smuggler's Run, just an attraction that is designed to not be something that you write home about because it's designed
I would say it's a
eat
D
people.
ticket. Yeah, exactly. It's kind of a D ticket where now I feel, Disney doesn't really do D tickets. They kind of do, when Cars Land opened, it opened with 3 attractions, a major E-ticket, and then 2 kind of flat, I would say C ticket level rides. B or C ticket. And then even Smuggler's Run has kind of become, I would say, an equivalent, but even then it was still trying to be 2 E-tickets.
Yeah.
For sure when it opened.
With the technology, the technology's e-ticket technology, the experience as a whole is D-ticket.
Yeah. Which is, it's interesting where this kind of, I don't want to say the word filler attraction because that has really negative connotations, but I feel that this is a positive connotation in this. It's not the journey to the center of the earth, which I feel for this park, that was the ride you have to do.
Yeah, I think
helped to fill out in the same way that Indiana Jones did, in the same way that 20,000 Leagues did. This helped to fill out the rest of the really good offerings.
It's kind of like the delicious middle layer of cream that you find between 2 sections of cake. Yeah, like it's not a huge, substantial part of the experience, but it binds everything together. And when it's there, you know it's there and it's delicious.
Exactly. And I feel that's the best. It's the cake. The Tokyo DisneySea is a cake, and all of it together is delicious. It looks like, to me, the expansions that are upcoming are going to make it even better, but we'll talk about that in the future someday. There's a few other attractions I would say at Tokyo DisneySea that could have their own whole episode, another 2 or 3 maybe. Max, I would say Journey probably could have its own episode, but we'll eventually get to them all when we do our multi-part series on the most promised thing we've ever done on the pod is this 37-part series on Tokyo DisneySea that will come eventually, but this is definitely big enough of an attraction to have its own episode. So it's a great ride. I would love to be riding it right now. Let's just say that. If I could be riding Sindbad Storybook Voyage, I would have 10 laps without ever getting off the boat now.
That's my takeaway as well. My takeaway is
if I could be riding this right now, I would do it.
I'd be happy. Yes.
If Tokyo Disney wants to add some quotes to their website about the attractions from, podcasters or YouTubers, they can take that. I'd be happy to be writing this right now. Glowing review from Review Time Luke. And if you would like to get in touch with Review Time Luke, hey, that's me. Get in touch with me on Twitter at Review Time Luke.
If you'd like to see me belly dancing, you can get on this attraction, or you can find me at Review Time Dom.
Little do you know that all the belly dancers are actually based on Dom's likeness.
It's true.
If you'd like to get in touch with both of us together, we're at Time Review, at Review Time everywhere else. Send us an email, whichever you'd like to get in touch with us. We'd love to hear from you. If you have an intro for the podcast, as good as Sinbad, not Sin Good, like this week, let us know on Twitter. We might use it and even give you a shout out. We will be back next week with a brand new episode. And remember, if you want to see our beautiful faces, subscribe to our brand new channel, Review Times Luke and Dom on YouTube. But until next time, see ya.
See ya.
Review Times Theme Parkcast is brought to you by Luke Carroll and Dominic Lacey. A big shout out goes to our newest patron, Thomas Miller, long-term Patreon, Bobby McDougall, and you, the listener. Review Times Theme Parkcast will be back next week.